Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 27 Beta 6. iOS 27 Beta 6 is available to developers on all iOS 27 supported devices, and iOS 27 Public Beta 4 should be out by the time you're watching this video, or probably by tomorrow. Now this came in at a fairly small 1.31 gigabytes, that's on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and it was released alongside many other updates. iPadOS 27 Beta 6, macOS 27 Golden Gate Beta 6, tvOS and HomePodOS 27 Beta 6, visionOS 27 Beta 6, along with watchOS 27 Beta 6. We also got iOS 26.6.1 to release to the public today, along with iOS 18.7.10. So quite a few updates, along with macOS 26.7 RC. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, General, Software Update, wait for it to load, go to More Details, and then tap on the version number. And as you can see, the build number is 24A5418B. We're getting very close to a public release, and hopefully we'll see that within the next few weeks. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. The first thing is there's no modem update coming from Beta 5 to Beta 6, so no changes there whatsoever. And as far as new features, well, there's a lot of under-the-hood refinements this time around. There are a few physical changes we can see, and the first one has to do with the battery icon. While fairly minor, if you turn on bold text using accessibility within your settings, the text up in the battery here is actually a little bit more bold instead of less bold like it is on the left-hand side with Beta 5. So you can see Beta 5 versus Beta 6 here. There's also a change with Spotlight Search. If we pull down here, the icons here sort of dip behind, shrink a little bit, and then it dims the background. So watch that on Beta 6 a little bit compared to Beta 5. So it's a little bit more interactive, there's more motion here, and I think it looks a little bit better. As far as other physical changes, well, with Beta 5, we actually got an update with all the icons here that you can see between both of them. However, now with Beta 6, our widgets get a little bit more of a glass look to them. So as we move here, it's hard to show it here, but it actually is a little bit more glass, and it's a little bit more translucent. So just like we had with iOS 27 Beta 5, where we could adjust the glass a little more, now we get even more of that in our clear widgets that we have here. In addition to that, with Beta 5, it actually added a couple things I didn't mention. For example, if you're utilizing 5G, so if I turn this off here, you'll see it switch over to 5G. 5G Plus is now showing in the UK. Also, the signal bar was stretched in Beta 5 and also uses the SF Pro font here with what the text says next to it. In addition to that, the Wi-Fi bar has been updated as well. So going from Beta 4 to Beta 5, it updated that. We'll turn the Wi-Fi back on, and you'll see it looks a little bit different. They're very subtle changes, but it is something that's changed. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is if we go into our settings, I mentioned this in the weekend video, if you go to your software update page, it now tells you when it's installed, and after the second day, tomorrow it should say installed yesterday, and then after that day it will then give the date. So it will continue the date from the last install. As far as anything else physically we can see, I'm not seeing a whole lot here. I'm not seeing any new splash screens throughout. If there is a new one, it's typically in the Games app. So if we go into Games again for the first time, sometimes that just pops up randomly on its own, like it just did there. But other than that, I'm not really seeing any splash screens whatsoever. As far as other updates, well, we did get an app update today. And you'll see that Apple updated Apple Sports to version 4.3 with additional leagues, where it says the soccer lineup continues to grow. So that's something that they've updated. I'm happy to see that they continue to expand this throughout the world. As far as bugs and bug fixes, this update definitely feels more refined, although it hasn't been out that long. But for example, the first thing has to do with messages, where if you're using messages and you have pinned contacts at the top, the bar at the top would overlap that. That's now been resolved. The keyboard is now popping up properly, whether that's Spotlight Search or maybe you go into Music and search. The keyboard seems to show up every single time now. VoiceOver is now working faster for those that are using it. CarPlay seems to be, well, so far so good, but again, this takes a few days to measure. We'll talk about it in the weekend follow-up video, but typically even with Beta 5 it didn't disconnect, but could be a little slow from time to time. They did add some new wallpaper there, but again, we'll have to test it out and see what it's like. But let me know if it's disconnected for you already or if they've finally resolved that. There was also an odd bug shared to me by Dakota that seems to be resolved, where if you long press or haptic press on one of the icons within the app library, it was automatically adding it to your home screen. That's been resolved. in beta 6. It was a problem in beta 5. Now, one thing we have to check is the wallpaper dimming bug. So we'll pull down here. We'll see the lock screen. It's nice and vibrant, very saturated. If I swipe home, it definitely desaturates. And for those of you that were wondering, if I go to customize here, I am on the brighter wallpaper. So it's definitely an issue with the overall operating system. With beta 1 through 4, really, it seemed to work just fine. Now it's more problematic again. As far as Apple's release notes, let's take a look at that. On Apple's public-facing release notes website, there's actually 74 categories of resolved issues, up from 70 before. So beta 5 showed 70 resolved categories, now there's 74, and as far as known issues, there's 14 categories left. Prior to this, it was 19. The beta before that, it was over 20, so Apple continues to make quite a bit of progress here. Of course, if you're still having issues, you'll want to check out those notes. You can find those typically within the Feedback app as well. So if we go into Feedback, you'll see under Feedback, there's recent activity with the recent notes. And again, you'll find all of those resolved issues here. If you're still having those issues, make sure that it's not actually mentioned here. If it is, they're already working on it. If it's not, go ahead and actually submit feedback. Then explain what's going on, and then Apple can work on that. As far as releases, Apple released iOS 26.6.1 to the public, as I mentioned before, so that was great to see, but I think we'll see another update next week with iOS 27 Beta 7. Usually we have about 7 to 9 betas or so, sometimes we've even seen more than that, but given that we're a few weeks away from when Apple typically releases this to the public, I would expect maybe a Beta 7, if there's no additional issues, maybe an RC on the 31st, and maybe a public release sometime in mid-September. Now, of course, we typically have an event in September introducing the next iPhones. If Apple does send out invites for that, we typically see that on the 3rd or 4th week of August. So we could expect that as soon as next week. And of course, if there is an event, I'll let you know about it. And of course, everything to expect there. But usually that event takes place sometime in the 1st or 2nd week of September. And then we'll have the public release of iOS along with iPhones later that month. So September is usually exciting with all these releases, of course, with macOS and everything else. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 27 Beta 6 as well as Public Beta 4, if that's released already, absolutely install it if you're already on iOS 27 betas and provide feedback like I mentioned before. It seems to be fairly stable, but if you're trying to resolve an issue, maybe coming from iOS 26, I would try out iOS 26.6.1 first. Usually I don't recommend upgrading to a beta unless you actually have an additional device that you can test it on and it's not on your main device. But make sure you have a backup either way, whether that's in iCloud or on your Mac or Windows computer. Otherwise, you'd have to bring it to Apple in order for them to downgrade it for you. But overall, it seems very smooth. ProMotion is incredibly fast. In fact, this feels somehow smoother than the previous update, which was already very smooth. When it comes to overall heat and thermals, the heat is a little bit raised here. I'm sure it's still processing in the background. We can see that where it's indexing typically. So it says optimizing search in Siri. But we'll take a look at benchmarks and see how it improves in the weekend video. But let's take a look at thermals. Now this time around, I wanted to show thermals without running benchmarks because, like I mentioned before, it is quite warm just sitting here. And if we take a look with the thermal camera, at the hottest point, right around the processor, we're right around 36.5 degrees Celsius. So it's quite warm. Keep in mind it's indexing in the background, but as far as benchmarks go, I did run those. So within Geekbench 7, we have 3,192 for single core, 8,849 for multi-core. This is quite good considering it's still indexing, and if we take a look at what we had on the weekend, it's even better than Beta 5 here, even after it ran for a week or so. So this is much improved, and I'm happy to see this, and you should see these performance improvements as well. When it comes to overall battery life is generally not great on Beta 5 for me, so hopefully it improves with Beta 6, but my battery health is at 100% with 164 cycles. And as far as the actual usage, let's take a look here. If we go back to yesterday, on Beta 5, I had 3 hours and 18 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 47 minutes of screen idle time using 89% of the battery. Today, 2 hours and 9 minutes of screen active time using 44%. So it's improved already. Hopefully it gets even better. Again, we'll have to wait for it to finish indexing and then test it after the next few days. When it comes to overall storage size, let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go to General and iPhone Storage. And if we scroll down, you'll see iOS 26.6.1's public release on the left compared to iOS 27 Beta 6 on the right. It's taking up 33.67 gigabytes on the 17 Pro Max compared to 21.98 gigabytes. Most of that is Apple Intelligence, but iOS is about 2 gigabytes larger at 16.04 compared to 14.44. So Apple Intelligence definitely uses more storage, but again, that's to be expected. However, hopefully they can optimize this before it's released to the public. So that's everything with iOS 27 Beta 6 and Public Beta 4. Not a huge update, at least physically what we can see and use, but it should improve it a lot as far as under the hood. So let me know your experience in the comments below. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.